do? What did you do?
Alrighty.
What did you do it?
That's your mark.
Oh, I got it.
Well, I was trying to be in the frame.
It's like man on the street. Like, yeah,
Okay.
nice to meet you.
I'm happy to back out.
No.
I think we all are. We're all awkward.
Yeah, we're all
We
awkward.
needed
It's okay.
Ariana today.
So if you
for
mess
this.
up, just stop and then like start over, and then
Okay.
I can just edit that out.
Okay.
If you feel
Okay.
uncomfortable with what you said. Okay, so first of all, thank you guys for meeting with me today. I'm Ines. I'm from the Modern Dog Trainer blog, and I really love your program, so I wanted to share a little bit about what you guys are doing at the Austin Animal City Shelter. So go ahead and introduce yourselves and kind of how you got involved at first.
I'm Jen, and I'm one of the directors and founders, and we all got started with Austin Pets Alive.
Okay.
And working with our behavior program there. So.
Amy Fitzsimmons, also one of the directors and founders, and yeah, that's where we all met over at APA. So.
And I'm Dawn Morehouse, also one of the directors and founders.
Cool. Okay, so tell us a little bit about the goals of the program.
So we started the program, initially what we long-term want to do is have a facility where we can take the dogs who really kind of struggle in the shelter environment and need to be in a more, low stress kind of home environment, simulated type place.
Yeah.
Penny over there in the car would be a great example of that.
Yeah.
But since we don't have the facility, we thought, well, what we can do is kind of identify dogs that are kind of right on the border of that in the shelter and give them some really resource-intensive support to help them get out of the shelter into a home. This guy's actually a good example of that. He's workable in a shelter environment, but he
Yeah.
requires a lot of support to keep his stress level at a good place and kind of be receptive to training.
Great. And so, as far as being adopted out, like how does that, proceed to their adoption in the future?
So they're adopted through the Austin City Shelter.
Okay.
And then we provide comprehensive post-adoption support, which we feel like is really the most important piece because to keeping them in the home.
Right.
So we have a group class, and while they're in the shelter, they come to the class with our volunteers.
Okay.
And then once they're adopted, then their adopters can bring the dogs to class. We do an in-home visit, so those two things kind of work as a handoff so that we can teach the owners what we've taught the dogs.
Yeah.
So that makes that a little bit smoother. And then we help them with any issues that that they might have been having. So we're also available for phone calls and emails, and if we need to do more home visits, we do that. And then once they are kind of like they're grooving in our class, then we give them a $100 training scholarship to go to a local trainer here and continue on with their basic training, and then hopefully it becomes a lifelong thing. But we are here for the life of the dog, or the life of the relationship with the dog.
Right.
So for as long as they have that dog, it doesn't matter if it's 5 years down the road or whatever. We're here to help.
Yeah. Awesome. So how did you approach the city shelter about getting started with this?
We actually drew up a formal proposal and initially contacted their behavior program manager, kind of talked to her, said we'd like to start the program in partnership with you, and had a meeting with all the management folks over there and made our little pitch.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what was the response to kind of the training proposal that you guys put in there as far as it being more positive reinforcement-based training?
Well, luckily, the behavior manager over there actually is the same philosophy that we have, so she
That
was
helps.
very happy to have,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's not, a ton, I don't know, I guess I shouldn't say that, but it's not the majority of the training that's happening in the Austin animal welfare community, so she was very happy to have a program that did match that philosophy and wanted to work with us. I think largely because of that. That was one of the,
Very helpful.
Yeah.
So how do you have volunteers sign up, and what kind of training do they receive before they get started working with the dogs?
So we post, we do volunteer orientations once a month.
Okay.
Every other month.
Once a month.
Once a month, I'm sorry. So we have volunteer orientation that we do once a month. People can sign up or send us an email online, and then it's about a 2.5-hour orientation. We go through, we have a packet of information that we walk through.
Okay.
We'll send that out ahead of time, and then we walk through it at the orientation. And then after we go through the packet, then we take a tour of AAC, and we actually look at any dogs that we have there. We go through kennel routine and show them where our equipment is stored and all of that. And then we'll get them set up for shadow sessions.
Okay.
Beyond that,
Good.
so that they're comfortable working with particular dogs that they're interested in working with when they come in. And we ask that they do 1 shelter shift a month.
Okay. What kind of dogs do you take into the program?
All kinds.
Yeah?
We actually, so as the packet she was talking about, we kind of have categories of the most common behaviors that we run across.
Okay.
A lot of it is fearful dogs and all of the many incarnations that exists. This guy, you know, that kind of adolescent, young adult, unruly, no manners type dog is another common one.
Yeah.
Really, sometimes it's just a dog who is very stressed in the shelter environment. And foster has unfortunately not been made available to that dog.
Okay.
So there is also a subset where it's just kind of helping them deal with that setting and keeping their stress level.
Okay.
When we're getting
So
ready
it's a
to
mix. That's okay.
when we're getting ready to pick a new dog, we
Okay. That's weird. I thought it wasn't recording, but I can't see. Okay.
so when we get ready to pick a new dog, we'll get the at-risk list.
Okay.
And we walk the at-risk list, and we take
What is
those
the outfit?
at-risk. It's one of the 4 lists that get sent out on a daily basis, and it just contains a list of the dogs who have some kind of behavioral or medical code.
Okay.
So those are the ones that typically tend to get put on the youth list first, unless another dog has an incident happen or something. But so we'll start with that as kind of our short list. And then we'll go down to the shelter and we'll take the dogs out and evaluate them independently, and from there we kind of narrow it down. We try and get as many of the 5 directors out to meet the dogs as we can, and then we discuss it.
Okay.
And we'll pick from there.
It's kind of a question of who needs us most
Right.
out of this group of dogs that are at risk right now.
Cool. Okay. So one of the questions from our other writers was, how do volunteers get the dogs out of the cages in the shelter? And then what do they do with the dogs while they're at the shelter?
So every dog has an individual training plan, but kennel routine is part of the training plan for every dog. Sometimes, you know, if it's like a semi-feral or a very fearful dog, we're scaffolding them, and it's not necessarily you will sit and look at me before we exit, right? But the end goal is all of them, you know, sitting politely for you to enter, and then also sitting politely with the door open, waiting for a release word free to exit the kennel. So we're setting them up with the expectations from the moment actually that we're approaching the kennel.
Okay. So you have a set routine that all of the volunteers are told to pretty much follow. Okay, great.
Yeah, and then once they take the dog out, then they do all different kinds of things with them.
Yeah.
So they do have training plans. So that might include some basics, or it might include getting used to touch or getting used to a certain environment or whatever. All of our volunteers are granted the opportunity to take the dogs on field trips. So that can include anything from going to a park, or maybe going to Home Depot if the dog's ready for it, or going for ice cream or whatever, just to do like those sort of enriching sort of things, just to kind of just break up the shelter day, right? And then and then we do encourage playtime in the kennels, because that's where the dogs live, and we want to make sure that they love their home, and that they understand, hey, we're going to hang out with you in your home, we're not just going to whisk you away and then drop you off and bye. So we have games that they can play, and then we do gate games or whatever, or we just might sit with them and just wave at people as they go by, and
we keep puzzle toys.
My belly in
we
my
keep
kennel.
puzzle
I was
toys
gonna
at the
ask
shelter also.
what kind of
so
like
they can take
in
puzzle toys.
between volunteers working with the dogs, what kind of mental stimulation do you guys have?
We keep a couple of the Nina Ottoson puzzle toys there. Kongs, we give Kongs to all of our volunteers as they get a little bag when they come to orientation.
Oh, good.
So we give out Kongs and tell them, give them ideas what they can do in the kennel with them. We encourage them to bring toys for them, or work on training in the kennel, or just doing T-Touch. We offer T-Touch twice a month down at AAC, and that is run by Marty Reeder and one of the directors, Ariana, who's not here. And so volunteers can take some of our dogs or any of the other shelter dogs that are their favorites to T-Touch. and then that's something that they can work on. Also, Saul is a great example.
Yeah.
He didn't actually like to be touched.
Oh, really?
When we first started working with him, and now he loves it. So when you
Just
start
was not
doing
familiar.
touch,
Yeah, you
Yeah.
could tell like when you go
You
to
know how
pet
it
him, he
works.
just look at you like, "What are you doing today?" Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Awesome. That's really great. So what kind of like specific techniques do you usually use with, let's say, the reactive dogs?
Want to take it? Who wants to take it?
Oh, okay. Well, so I mean, if we're going to work with a reactive dog, I mean, the first thing we kind of work on is just like the individual relationship and making sure that the dog is comfortable and is taking cues from the handler. So we work on focus and patience and self-control.
Yeah.
So we do all those sorts of things. We use Leslie McDevitt's Controlled Unleashed for a kind of the basis of our class, and so she actually has some days planned out, so we'll do a lot of that stuff. So we work on those things first, and then once we have good relationship, we're able to touch the dog, we're able to get the dog to turn his focus away from something and come with us, and then we'll incorporate BAT, behavior adjustment training with that was Marisha Stewart, and we love that a lot. The dogs love it. It's so much fun, and we've really not encountered anybody that we've tried it with that didn't didn't really love it.
Away. Yeah, it's like a major choice.
And that's actually a really fun moment when the dog realizes, oh, you're gonna listen to me.
Yeah.
This is what I wanted all along.
Yeah.
And they love the runaway, and that's really that's my favorite thing. But we also do we do a lot of T-touch, and T-touch is the touch and the wraps, but it's also the obstacle course or the playground for higher learning, I think is what they really call it. That's what they call it. And we incorporate that into our class. And that's really good stuff too, because we the tactile, the turning, using the labyrinth, using the ladder. We do a lot of different things like that, and just kind of learn a lot about the dogs. And the dogs really enjoy it too. We just had a class where we just did obstacle course work, and they had a lot of fun. And really, dogs who couldn't be with each other were working in separate obstacles, but going around and doing it and listening to their handlers, and they gave them something to focus on, and that was a really great class. That was one of the best classes we've had in a while.
Our last class was a leash grooming class, so it was
It
a
really
good idea.
was. Yes, Our last
Not
group
on purpose, but
it just happened, and but I mean that's what he loves, and that's what he wants to do, and that's what we teach them, because he didn't used to be able to do that.
No. Right.
So now we've taught him. You know what? If something bothers you, we're gonna take you away from it,
You don't
and
have to
so
face it.
you don't have to face it. And so we've really dealt with a lot of reactivity just in that way. We don't even really use treats or anything like that. It's just movement. Yeah. Totally.
Awesome. Okay, and then I would like to know, what is the adoption rate of the dogs who enter the program, and then how do you work, or how do you approach potential adopters that are interested in dogs, and like how do you tell them what you're working on?
We need to do a better job tracking our statistics, but I can say we have a 100% live outcome rate of program dogs. And it really, length of stay really depends. Sometimes super fast. This guy just sticking around forever. So what would you say on average, about a month maybe, if you kind of meld?
If you meld everybody together, I would say,
it's
because
not accurate though, because some are super quick and some are super long.
Yeah,
so there's,
and we take so many different types of dogs. We don't have a type, so it is really difficult. Because I mean, I think that your typical dogs who get adopted from the shelter quickly, we've had those fluffy, those cute little fluffy dogs.
Anytime we get a fluffy dog, they can be naughty as all get out. I've been in the program for maybe a week and a half, and somebody still wants that dog.
Yeah, exactly. It really has to do with the look, but we are having a lot of success keeping them in the home, and that's really what we're more proud of, even than the adoption rate, because
the return rate is not.
It's not super high, and sometimes the ones who are getting adopted, it's not even because of them. It was because there was a life situation or some of those other things. So the number of dogs we're having returned because of the dog or because the relationship didn't take off or whatever has really just been very minimal. And granted, we haven't had it. I mean, we take a few dogs, so that we don't have like a huge body to create statistics from, but even still, we're taking really difficult dogs.
Looking at this subset of dogs, number one, these are the first dogs to be euthanized. So most of these dogs, none of these dogs would have made it out of the shelter without the support of the program.
Yeah.
Right.
But also looking at, that rung right next to the dogs who are maybe a little bit challenging and still are getting adopted out. We see a lot of, we call it like ping pong dog, where the dog is just in and out of the shelter back and forth.
Yeah.
So we're able to prevent that and get these dogs not just in homes, but doing well, right?
Yeah.
Where they're going out into the community and being ambassadors for shelter dogs and for naughty dogs.
Right.
We get a lot of adoption referrals from people who meet the dogs of our previous adopters and come to the program.
Yeah,
so I think
we've
that
had
says a
people
lot.
want to adopt from us because we offer them post-adoption support,
Yeah.
and that's what a lot of people that's what tips the scale into adopting one of our dogs versus just any random walking in the shelter and walking out with a dog. So,
Right.
so that's really cool to be able to make that.
That
And
is
you
really
know,
We offer that
yeah.
free of charge.
Yes. All of the stuff that we do is free of charge. I mean, of course, we take donations, but
Right.
but everything that we do is for the love of the dogs, and we call them our dogs, and we love them like our dogs, and so we really do we really do mean it. I mean, we mean it when we say we want to help. We want to make sure that works out. We want to see that relationship blossom because that's really why we do this. I mean, that's the fun part.
And
So-
we want to put dogs in the community that people are going to see, and it makes them want to get a shelter dog instead of, oh gosh,
Yeah. Okay, what are your goals for the future?
we need a building. That's really, we need a facility.
To house the dogs and also do training?
To house the dogs, and we want to make it kind of a community resource. So, we can't take every high need dog in the Austin metropolitan area into our program, but a lot of the time there's a volunteer or a foster or even a recent adopter who has one of those dogs, wants to help that dog, and just doesn't necessarily have the tools or the skills to do it. So we want to offer classes and seminars and a place that they can bring the dogs and use, walking trails and play yards and work with the dog on site where we are.
Yeah.
Nice.
Someday. Yeah, that's a big goal. I hope you guys get there, though.
We're working on it.
you will.
Yes. We are.
Okay, and then my last question is, are you going to expand to other shelters, or are you willing to share your program with others who would like to, do the same thing in other shelters?
We're 100% willing to share,
Yeah.
and we actually have passed along information
Good.
pretty frequently. Yes, we want to expand to help other shelters. We have worked with dogs, provided auxiliary support for other rescues and other shelters in the area, Pflugerville Pets Alive being one of the places that we've kind of helped out. But we do want to make sure that we're taking care of Austin Animal Center first.
Yeah.
So as long as every dog that we can help at AAC is getting taken care of, that's when we're,
And that's a lofty goal.
That's a lofty goal. We're not there yet. So Austin.
So I expect that we'll be working directly with AAC for a while.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for talking to me today.
Thank you.
Do you want to tell me a little bit about Saw, and we'll show him off to everybody?
This is the
So it's amazing. He's a little over a year old, almost a year and a half, I think.
Yeah, he's 18 months. Yeah, I checked his
Yeah.
age.
And he is just, he's a big, meaty love bug.
Are you meaty?
He was an example. He's working on his jumping up on people.
Yes.
But he was an example of a dog that he was on the risk list for severe shelter stress. So we started working with him and found out very quickly that he is very engaged with his humans. He bonds very quickly. He's lovely in a home. I used to take him home for sleepovers. Jen used to take him home for sleepovers. He's just a great dog, and he's in a foster home now with 2 dogs. One of them he's not integrated with yet, but that absolutely actually is more to do with her than him. She's just, she has her own dog issues. But the other dog, the male dog, and Saul interact very nicely. And he's also living with 2 young girls and is very lovely
His
with them.
ladies, his little blonde girls, yes.
Yes.
He likes
So-
them a lot.
Yeah, he really does.
He's really just looking for a home, probably where he can be the only dog. He can coexist with the right kind of dog, but I think he really just wants
He
to be
prefers
an
to,
only dog
yeah.
in the home. Someone who will take him out. We found out recently that he's a great running buddy, like 4 miles.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
We're very surprised.
Yeah, we're
yes.
very surprised. But
He's not super high energy.
he's not in a home, and he's also absolutely willing to just chill on the couch with you and watch movies if that's your thing.
Yeah. Awesome.